Throne and Liberty is here, and what can I say? It's great, honestly. Sure, you need to spend half an hour to an hour rebinding all of the keys, fixing the camera, and reading basic stuff about the game, and understanding how the quests work and all the seemingly strange gotcha but not gotcha reward systems that you have in the game takes a little bit of time. But other than that, I mean, it's pretty good. Pretty good.
I was wrong. I 100% put my hands up and admit that I was wrong about Throne and Liberty. I'm gonna be honest, I wasn't really that hyped for this MMO. I genuinely thought there was no chance NCSoft could turn this game from an autoplay mobile piece of shit that we was all collectively memeing on, to a
Bro, I memed on that hard because that was a hilarious failure.
game that I'd actually enjoy. But I was wrong. In the past, I've said the combat in this game is clunky. It is clunky. Does it get better at...
Yeah, it definitely is clunky. They need to add so many options. For example, auto casting things that require aim. The ability to cast in the direction that your character is actually facing, not your mouse. This game needs so much work, but despite that, still very enjoyable.
At level 50, yes, a bit, but it's still clunky and the movement at times drives me insane. However, given the improvements the devs have made to the gameplay in such a short space of time, I think they've earned a bit of patience from myself that they'll continue to improve it further. Is the game pay to win? Yes, but all Korean MMOs are pay to win, and the pay to
This is enough not pay to win for me to be completely fine with this. This is like Lost Ark.
win ceiling isn't as high as other pay to win MMOs, so it's actually quite playable free to play. I was so close to quitting this game even after reaching level 50 because I wasn't really feeling the combat. At times I do still think it feels rough, and for the people who get to max level and decide to quit because they're not enjoying the gameplay, I get it. You're 100% valid and there's a lot of improvement that needs to be made. For me,
Yeah, it depends. There's no glaring super issues to talk about. So, do you like this or not? It doesn't matter. It's completely valid in one way or the other, and you should not worry about it. If you want to play it, play it. If you don't want to play it, don't play it. All reasons equally valid in this case.
it wasn't until I really started spamming dungeons, mastering the mechanics, and actually getting used to the pace of gameplay in Throne that something clicked, and I said to myself, ah, I get it now. And since that point I've been enjoying the game to the point where this isn't something I'm just going to drop after I've made my content about it. This video will be a simple format. In the first half I'll talk about all the things I like about Throne and Liberty so far, and in the second half I'll talk about all the things I dislike about the game. I'm not going to explain how the game works because I want to keep this video concise and content rich. Also, I'd like to...
The game works by binding block to your mouse wheel. That's how the game works.
give a big shout out to Canon, not only for his top tier content about Throne and Liberty, but also helping me better understand the game privately in DM.
Also, shout out to have enough balls to actually name yourself after a printer.
He's a cool guy and you should definitely subscribe to his channel. But before we jump into the review, do us a favour and support the content by listening to today's sponsor, Marib.
Thank you. Absolutely. No, though. Absolutely, without question, big no.
But see, things I like, we'll start on the topic of visuals. The game has amazing graphics, it's the best Unreal Engine 4 MMO I've ever played, and I think you could argue that it looks just as good or better than Black Desert Online. Some people say the visuals are generic, and I can see what they mean. It definitely looks similar to other Asian...
Yeah, the visuals are kind of generic, but that doesn't honestly stop you, mostly because I found the exact female hairstyle that I like from a woman I actually like in real life, so that's mega bonuses.
Asian MMOs, but I actually like the art.
And yes, that is as depressing as it sounds, but overall it's good.
Art style, especially with how vibrant and colourful everything is, from the UI to the world. Everywhere you point the camera, especially in the starting town, can be framed to just look like the most picturesque, beautiful scene I've ever seen.
Oh, no about that, Chief. I don't think the visuals are that good.
In an MMO. Just look at how...
Honestly, you know what's better than the visuals? The fact that you have seamless teleportation. That's better than the visuals.
good this looks. But what makes it look so good? For me, it's the scale of the environmental assets in relation to the size of your character. It's perfect. This combined with the game having an insanely far view distance. This was also something that I really liked about New Worlds, but I think Throne looks even better. I absolutely love the way armor looks in this game. Even early in the game, I thought my character looked so fucking cool with the armor he had equipped. I felt absolutely no need to buy any cash shop cosmetic, and I actually reckon the in-game gear you obtain from quests, mob drops, and bosses looks straight up better. Just look at my warrior.
Yeah, literally this the first blue staff I found in this game already kind of looks like absolutely amazing, not gonna lie.
The shield, the chunkiness of the shoulder pads, the way he holds his greatsword is just so cool. The open world
Oh no, pretty gay.
multi-level dungeons in this game are also extremely impressive. The level design, depth, and sense of scale in these massive dungeons is unlike anything I've seen in another MMO. It feels like something from an anime. I also love that the game is one massive open world with no loading screens. I like the dynamic weather, seeing the trees blow in the wind, the dust particles, birds fly up as I run past them, and it's also cool how weather affects the gameplay with various effects. The game has epic music, kinda what you'd expect from a Lineage game, S-tier character customization, all the sliders you could possibly want. The game has an insanely good photo mode. All that's missing is the ability to change the time of day, change the weather, and turn off the UI during this mode, and I also liked the cutscenes. A lot
I literally have never cared about photo mode.
of them seemed pretty epic, but the one I liked the most was after the
Skipped every single cutscene.
tutorial. The seamless transition of you arriving at the mainland, seeing the title screen, and all the
Don't even remember this part.
players load in. Very memorable. Things I like, gameplay. The game runs extremely well considering the amount of players and openness of the world. Sometimes you do need to turn the graphics down a bit when there's hundreds of players on screen, but overall I was impressed with the performance, which is very important considering the pinnacle content of this game is Castle Siege with hundreds of players. The combat, whilst clunky, does feel impactful. The feeling of my sword connecting with the enemy, the VFX, and the numbers popping up does feel satisfying. I think the combat in this game has quite a unique feel to it, and it's quite grounded. It's not perfect, definitely a lot of things I dislike about it which we'll mention later on, but at least it doesn't feel floaty like some MMOs. That being said, it does take a long time to get used to. Throne has two interesting
Bro, the combat does take a while to get used to. At the start, casting seems kind of really strange. Because you know how in World of Warcraft, you know when something happens, it feels snappy, it feels responsive, you know when something happens. Yeah, in this game it's slightly different. They need to improve the delay between click and actually things happening. There are some skills that are very fine and almost instant, but some kind of require almost to have a cast bar associated them, even if they're instant.
Unique combat mechanics that I do quite like. The first being collision. As a warrior, I can push enemies into walls to stun them or push them off high ground with my shield rush. I also really like the Q block. Although it took me a long time to get used to, getting the timing perfect on this actually feels
I rebinded Q to switch weapons.
really nice and keeps you engaged for boss fights. Throne really feels like a true MMO, very early in the game and throughout. It supports a massive number of players, it brings players together with regular events, and you're incentivized to group grind mobs, unlike Black Desert Online where you're penalized. I like that dungeons are 6 players instead of 5, I don't know why, I just like it, it feels more social. And I like that bosses can be killed with less than 6 players if everyone does the mechanics perfectly. I haven't seen any boss enrage mechanics yet, and on numerous occasions we've managed to kill bosses with only half the group due to a few people dying. It takes a long time, but it's doable. Things I like, content and systems. Even though I haven't gone to many conflict events yet due to not having a guild, I think it's a fair system to have some events be conflict PvP enabled and some peace. The same goes for open world dungeons turning full PvP at night time. It incentivizes players to join guilds and learn to PvP, but it's not so oppressive to the point where a PvE player can't enjoy the game and avoid this type of content. Obviously, the endgame siege PvP and GVG stuff is insanely fun. It's the best pinnacle content in any MMO really, in my opinion. The most fun I ever had in an MMO was my days of being in a hardcore siege guild back in Black Desert Online, so I'm really excited to try this part of Throne. I really enjoyed Throne's solo boss challenge content, Tadal's Tower. Going into it I expected it to be gear gated, but every boss is just pure mechanics, and
Yeah, it's kind of pure mechanics. The first boss that I struggled with was the spider because I thought, wait a minute, can I actually defeat the spider just being at range? No, it turns out being at range is stupid. The spider actually kills you super easily at range. But if you just, circle it in melee, it barely does any damage to you.
I cleared the whole thing with potato gear as soon as I hit level 50. I love that dailies stack up to 5 days before you're at your caps. You can literally not play for 4 days, then catch up on everything on day 5, and you're not missing out on efficiency. Unlike most Korean MMOs, Throne doesn't seem like it's too time consuming. Dare I say, I think this might be an MMO that respects your time once you're in the flow of doing the daily stuff. This game's gear enhancement system is one of the least punishing I've ever seen in a Korean MMO. Yes, there's a bit of RNG, but it's really not much. You always get something for using your resources to improve your gear. There's no seemingly unreachable ceiling like in BDO. I also think the way you obtain gear is relatively well designed too. For a Korean MMO, I was surprised that I didn't find a whole lot of inconvenience. Usually these games will have weight limit systems, almost no inventory space, a lot of
Yeah, the same. I thought actually the same thing at the start. Turns out, no, not exactly true. You open your inventory and you see, oh, I don't have a lot of slots. I'm already like 70% filled. Oh no, that's only 20 of my 100 and whatever slots.
create problem to sell solution, but there doesn't seem to be too much of that in this game, so far anyway. I think it's cool that the chat has an auto-translator built in, and I also like that the devs are listening to feedback and seem to be faster improving the game. This game is unrecognisable now compared to what it was a year and a half ago, so hats off to the devs for the changes so far. Next, let's discuss the things I dislike about Throne, once again starting with the visuals. I absolutely hate turning into a dog to run around. My character looks so fucking cool in human form, but I need to transform into a shit animal and go through a weird animation? Bro, just let me fuck.
I wouldn't say it's a weird animation, but yeah, I definitely understand this. Honestly, it would be so much better if you just got a movement speed boost while not in combat or something like that.
Sprint, it would be so much better. Delete the animal shit and give us a sprint instead. I really don't feel like the morphs add anything to the game, and for me I'd prefer if they just took the traditional MMO approach of mounts instead. But at the very least, they need to improve the transition from animal form to human form, because it's very janky. The camera zooms in, your character often desyncs on this transition, and
if you think that's janky, try fucking playing daggers and using the ability that teleports you behind your target. That's jank, okay? Listen, you were like this, your opponent was right in front of you, you teleport from this position to this position, and your camera does not change angles, so now you are facing the camera backwards. It's the most awkward shit ever.
Doesn't feel instant and responsive. On top of that, there's no option to enable the animal form only when shift is being held. You need to double tap shift to enable and instantly disable it. So in boss fights you often linger in animal form for a few seconds longer than you'd like, wasting stamina and as a result not having enough stamina for a Q block. It just feels bad. Actually seeing which target you're targeting can be difficult at times. The indicators
Oh yeah, it's pretty bad.
Just this small orange bracket around an already orange nameplate. When you're getting ragged by 10 mobs at once, you can't really glance and see your target, so perhaps the nameplate on your targeted enemy could benefit from some customization options. Things I dislike: gameplay. The movement when it comes to flying, grappling and climbing feels awful. Janky
grappling seems fine.
Animation locks and camera zooms on grappling. The climbing is barely functional. You'll see tons of inclines that you think you can jump over, but you can't. And the transition from flight
that's true. That is very true.
to human form is not smooth. The thing that makes this even more annoying is that there's so many quests and bosses in this game with jumping puzzles and mechanics that utilize the grapple and flight. So much so that you'd think this game has the movement fluidity of Mirror's Edge. It doesn't. The movement feels really shit sometimes, and it's the biggest area of improvement that I'd like to see. Now, to be fair to the devs, movement used to be even worse. Until recently, there was inertia when changing directions. I actually had a bug where this inertia was...
The soundtrack he's using in the background sounds strangely close to Made in Abyss Golden City.
...re-enabled for my character, and it felt like absolute dog shit to just move around the world. Thankfully, a relog...
Oh, by the way, if that's in-game music, no idea. I turned that shit off instantaneously.
...fixed this issue, but definitely for me, one of the game's biggest weaknesses is the feeling of movement. As for combat, there's still...
Yeah, again, they just need to copy the camera controls from World of Warcraft. That's pretty much all that there is to, because they are specifically trying the idea of, hey, your camera is facing like this, but you can move your character in all positions, but the camera is not gonna stop facing like this. That's pretty bad. That is pretty bad.
A lot of clunky combat abilities. The game has improved, but there's still more that needs...
Mainly because it has the issue of not turning your character when you press A or D. You should turn like this, but instead you start running in a direction. That is a problem. They just need to copy World of Warcraft. Because, listen, Throne and Liberty has so much goddamn potential, it's actually absolutely insane, okay? I don't know how to explain it, but the fact that you just log in and you're fine spending like 30 minutes to 1 hour changing all of the settings because they're dog-watered, and then you still play the game, that's insane. That is insane, okay? The fact that people are willing to do that means so much.
Needs to be done. Now, when I say clunky, I'm mostly referring to a combination of your abilities and how they tie in with movement. The Warrior's Dash, for example, has a micro animation lock at the start and end of the ability. As a mage, if you begin casting a spell at max range, but the target moves even 1 centimeter out of range, your spell is cancelled without any buffer zone like other MMOs usually have. There's just so many abilities with micro animation locks that root you in place, and even if it's just for half a second, taking away a player's freedom of movement is what makes it feel clunky. I'd happily go more in depth on this in a separate video, but people keep telling me the combat gets less clunky with more gear. I think they're misunderstanding my complaint. I understand that cooldowns get shorter, attack speed gets faster, some skills can instant cast with...
But attack speed getting faster and cooldowns getting shorter, stuff changes.
Skill specializations, I get that. But unless there's an item that literally reads, removes the animation lock on X ability, then I've failed to see how progressing further in the game will make it less clunky. In addition, Throne also has a few AoE abilities that I feel should be usable without a target which aren't, Piercing Strike being an example with Sword and Shield, and Devastating Smash plus Guillotine Blade AoE spec for Greatsword. I think the devs should try to make almost every ability usable without having a target, similar to how it works in Guild Wars 2. Just a small thing, but I
Guild Wars combat is just as fluent as it gets.
Like how your character will often have their movement interrupted and blocked by the smallest of rocks or inclines sticking out of the floor. Some of the arena maps I find annoying that they've incorporated the grapple mechanic to their map design.
Hey, listen, never doubt the high ground, okay? Anakin did, and look at what happened to him, okay? It is what it is.
Which doesn't feel good.
The high ground is the ultimate end game.
In fact, here's a good example. I fell off the map, I tried to grapple back up, and I'm just completely bugged out for a solid minute. I can see how this would be fun if the grappling was actually good, but unfortunately it isn't. The combat block feature can feel a bit scuffed when you're trying to solo AoE farm, all the circles going off at different times, you're running out of stam, and you can't get any channeled abilities off. I think in PvE you should have like 2 or 3 seconds where you can't be CC'd after a successful block. I dislike that sprint and block have the same stamina usage, as when you're grouping up a mob...
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
...to farm, you simply have no stamina left to block once they're all grouped up. It feels bad. Additionally, I dislike that after you've killed all your enemies and should theoretically be out of combat, your travel morph still has its stamina drain as if you're in combat for a solid 10 seconds after it's finished. And playing melee in large-scale encounters, both PvP and PvE, can feel bad sometimes, because you basically need to be on top of your target to hit them. So for events, you might feel like you're just running around with ranged DPS killing everything before you can even reach your target.
Yeah, that's also kind of expected.
Perhaps there should be a bit more tolerance in regards to the distance that melee need to be to use their abilities. Things I dislike: content and systems. Rerolling weapons becomes harder the longer you play. I don't mind how they've designed the skill leveling and mastery systems, but at least sell us the ability to transfer masteries or buy skill conversion books off the cash shop. It wouldn't even be pay to win. If people stop enjoying their character, they'll quit. If they have the option to...
Yeah, well, the idea here is that people roll a new character, but that obviously doesn't work every single time, so there are downsides.
Spend money to try a different playstyle.
Because you can easily say, hey, the people who quit because they can't put their skills and transfer them and keep their levels and blah blah blah. You can say the same exact thing for the people who quit because they got tired of their one character but didn't start a new one because there was no incentive for them to do so.
Without feeling like they've wasted tons of time, then they might stick around. The auction house is extremely laggy. I hope this is just a launch issue, but it's not been very responsive since launch. I dislike the micro FPS freezes you get when you open and close the map, as well as other UI
I dislike the map in general.
elements. This could use some optimization. Some of the
Also, I have no freeze when I open or close the map.
quests during the leveling process
Someone's mowing the lawn. It's almost winter. What the fuck?
were awful. Thankfully, leveling is quick, but from level 30 to 45, it felt like every quest was either a puzzle, a jumping puzzle, or utilised the game's awful climbing mechanics. This entire part of the game would feel better if they improved the feeling of movement. The new player experience in Throne is not the best, in that the game does a poor job of teaching you about its progression systems. Traits, dissolving gear, and the procurement.
Oh, hell yeah. This is so true. My best advice, by the way, is just don't learn anything. Play it, and then slowly you're gonna get to those points anyway, and then you're gonna teach it. Don't try to learn everything in an instant. It just doesn't work.
Procurement of resources, to name a few. There's a lot
And if you're not finding something, don't worry about it. You're gonna find it at some point. That is, by the way, specifically towards weapon mastery, because I was so confused for such a long time. Why does my weapon mastery not go up? Turns out your weapon mastery, the first time it's gonna go up is roughly like level 20 or something. Don't remember, but something like that, which is ridiculous. I thought, because in the description it says, level up weapon mastery by using weapons. No, you don't level up weapon mastery by using weapons. You get some kind of strange drop that, you just need to use, and that's it. That's how you level weapon mastery. It's so confusing.
Pitfalls for new players to mess up their characters, especially for those that don't watch YouTube guides. And finally, the game is pay to win. It's not BDO levels of pay to win, and a free-to-play player could definitely play the game, get geared, and enjoy it. It's not going to be as fast as a pay-to-win player, but it's achievable. Finally, here's a small list of improvements I want for Throne of Liberty. Forgive me if some of these are already in the game on Korea. I don't play KR, so I don't know what's coming soon. Considering that a lot of the in-game armour is just as good or better than cash shop cosmetics, let us collect the appearance of armour that we've obtained in the lithograph book, so we can then use that as cosmetics too. I would like more than 3 ability loadouts. 3 is not enough. You have multiple for PvP, PvE, solo, small scale, large scale, and so on. Remove animation locks on more abilities, overhaul the movement system. We need improvements to the grappling, jumping, and vaulting mechanics, as well as smoother transitions
Definitely.
in and out of morph, make it easier to re-roll, sell weapon mastery transfers on the cash shop if you want. The game's already pay to win, so giving people the option to pay to re-roll is completely fine. Make a help chat or buddy system to help new players avoid mistakes and common pitfalls.
I doubt that's gonna work.
Add the ability to change the time of day.
Okay. Peon, why do you love photo mode so much? It's literally no one cares. How do you do this to yourself? Anyway, that was the Lazy Peon. 10 out of 10. Bye.